Tabletop Weekly, and we are the partners of Solarian Games.
I am Jason.
And this guy right here is Pete. And this week, we're going to talk about weird heroes of public access and their hardcover being released. We'll talk about Dungeon Traps Done Right, which is a really cool article I found. Rodney Thompson, I don't know who he is, but apparently some people do, to make Neon City Outlaws. And lastly, we're going to wrap this one up with a really good discussion on Troll Lord Games buying 5 acres to build a factory, which is a really, really cool story.
Very cool.
Yes.
All right, so let's hop in on the first one. So what we have got here, I hold this in my hot little hands right now, is
hold it up.
Weird Heroes of Public Access. The role-playing game hardcover has finally been released. So this game, and I'm going to show all the things that came in the mail today in a little bit. This game has been around for a couple of years now in zine form. It's an amazingly fun game. We've played it at lots of different conventions. It's written by Joey Royale, published by his own company, Get Haunted Industries. And Weird Heroes of Public Access, or WHPA, is a game. It's a modern era game. By modern era, you know, we kind of refer to anything that's 20th or 21st century as modern era. It's set in sort of an indeterminate decade. Somewhere it could be the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, or even now. But in this, you play, as you can see here on the cover, you play hosts of public access television shows in the small town of Fairhaven, somewhere in the Northeast. And the powers that you have, such as they are determined by what your show is. So if you, for example, are, let's see if I can get my finger to go the right way here. This guy here with his ventriloquist dummy, you might have some ventriloquist powers. Maybe your dummy can even come to life, things like that.
You ever see the movie Magic? Yee.
So, before we dive into what's in here, let's take a look. So they, as I said, they've been doing zines for some time now. They've had about, I think, 9 or 10 things out. Other people are writing for them as well.
Yeah, hold on. I think I have. There's one on the screen now. If you're looking, I think this is this week, right? I think that's one of them, right?
Yes, that's one of the ventures.
Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
And yes, so that's a photo of all the stuff that came in the mail. So I don't have to necessarily hold all of it up one at a time, but I will anyway, even though we have the picture up on the screen. Yeah. So I backed the backer kit, and as you can see, we got a number of goodies in this. Because I was one of the first backers, I managed to snag this beautiful WHPA TV 13 Weirdathon sponsor patch, which I can embroider onto my battle jacket, which I will. Absolutely. Nice. I'm very proud of this. It's very cool. Limited edition doesn't mean I'm going to hide it away. I'm going to stick it on a jacket. I'm going to wear it out. I also got this beautiful cozy. We'll put my soju in this drink cozy here. Let's get it in there. Come on. This is gripping podcast stuff here right now. So look at that. The 13 WPHA Fairhaven Drink Cozy. So now, if we had to worry about sponsors like a 1970s TV show, we could cover up the labels. Excellent. Beautiful set of custom dice, which a little bit hard to see, but you can see Lord Blood on there, amongst others. The WHPA TV 13 Weirdathon program guide. This is great. This is just, it's incredible. It is an entire program guide for shows on the channel. I'm just going to read a little bit from the intro here. Dearest heroes, your mere possession of this literature is a testament to your bravery and loyalty. You know the odds and the terrors that haunt Fairhaven's shadows, yet you selflessly persevere. Without breaching your privacy, I have been observing you. I have seen your advocacy for the underdog and your willingness to sacrifice for the benefit of others. Everything in this book is as factual as it is fantasy. It is all how you look at it. So we have wonderful shows in here. Like we have Dan the Karate Man's Black Belt Basics, Harold Wigglesworth, What's Buggin' with Bug Professor, I don't know. I believe he might have pulled a lot of these from the various players in the Discord. So I haven't looked through to see if my TV host is in here or not. I'm just going to flip through quickly. There he is. So I will do.
Crap.
So my TV host from playing in here is, and I will read this one. So here we have the host, the show, the details, and the catchphrase. So my TV host is Skip E. Wonderman. And his show is called Skip E's Keys to the Cosmos. Skip E plays the beloved easy listening standards of the 1940s, 50s, 60s, and 70s on his Hammond organ and teaches viewers how to spot the space aliens living amongst us in Fairhaven. As Skippy tickles the keys of his organ, he gives you the keys to the cosmos.
That's awesome.
So, we have loads of it's wonderful. I'll just hold up a little bit more here. We have loads of wonderful local ads, as it were, all kinds of things like that. We also have an incredible book here called We All Have Secrets, which some friends of mine who are not gamers at all, when they saw me put these up online, they were just like, I need to have this. I need to have all of this. So these are all local lost broadcasts from the WHPA TV13 tape library with contributions from Levi Combs, Hambone McGuire, Ben Grimes, Brian Courtemanche, Tim DeShane, Greg Setliff, and Ian McGarty. So just amazing stuff. And then penultimately, we have this Game Masters screen. Beautiful. And on the inside, we have broadcasting guidelines, how to become a host, your programming lineup, your supernatural abilities, all done up in wonderful WHPA style. So amazing things. And then last but not at all least, we have a custom postcard from our station manager, the Reverend Joey Royale. So woo. Beautiful stuff. So very excited about this. Can't wait to be playing more WHPA. There, yes, we can see all the dice laid out. So you see Lord Blood, and I believe, well, I won't go into what everything in there is. I don't want to get anything wrong.
Do you know who the guy with the glasses is?
I do, and I'm not sure I'm supposed to say, so I'm going to not say.
All right, we'll keep it there.
Yes.
I'll ask you privately.
Yes, I'll tell you. I will tell you privately instead of publicly. But very excited about it. So glad to get this in the mail. It was kickstarted in November. Got pushed back a couple of minutes by some of the tariff craziness, but not much. Very, very close to being on time, even with all the crazy stuff. And so much bigger, so much better than before. You can also get this through, I believe, Goodman Games and another, I forget who else, but you can get it all the places you could find things. I don't know if this is on sale to the public yet. It might be finishing all of its backer kit fulfillment first. They didn't use Kickstarter; they used backer kit, which is cool.
Yeah, we have to talk to him about that because ever since backer kit started doing being actual competition for Kickstarter, I have wondered what what that meant, like their model and how successful it can be and how it, like, do they have the same amount of reach and stuff, because I was a little worried because we could have our last Kickstarter, we could have gone backer kit. They had just started it. But I was concerned that we wouldn't get enough visibility. So I'd love to talk. I'm going to pick Joey's brain next time and see if I can find out.
Yeah, we'll have to see because it's a pretty cool idea. We heard about it at that marketing seminar that we went to. Marketing panel at page 3 or page 2. Yeah. But it does say here on the back that this looks like it will be $34.99 when it goes on sale to the general public, which I think is an incredibly good deal. So pick it up when you can. It's really fun.
Yeah, heard nothing but good stuff.
Yeah.
Nothing but good stuff.
Yeah. And
Joey's a friend. We love these guys. Yeah,
we love all these guys. And Shanbot V42 says, still waiting on mine and even more excited seeing this on screen. So cool. Awesome. Also, I see Brian is sad that the Christmas tree is gone in the background. I was thinking about keeping that as a permanent fixture just for the
Just to piss Ron off.
But as you might be able to see over here on this side, I'm putting up some new shelves. So some things had to move over to where the tree is. That's going to be my computer museum in that area. We'll hopefully be able to debut it next week. And
that'd be cool.
Yeah, getting some lighting coming in and stuff like that. So we'll see.
Excellent. All right. Right then, let's go to the next story, which I found this one sort of by accident. This is not news. This is just something somebody put up.
Look at this art.
Well, I don't now. This isn't their art. I found this online somewhere.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever. It's cool.
It is good art, though.
It's got lots of cool traps in it. I see some kind of a lich or zombie or something coming out of a piano or a pool or a coffin.
Right, or something. Right.
I don't know. There's a swinging blade and teeth things coming up. It's cool. So
I found this. Apparently, this is a cool blog that this guy Alexander Ataz, and it
sounds right.
called Dungeon Counters, and or dungeoncounters.com, and he this article was on tribality. So he writes.
Never heard of this.
Yeah, he writes his own. I guess he has his own blog, and Tribality is another website, and he wrote a specific article for them. And then I went to his blog and checked it out, and he had a lot of really good stuff on there. So when you guys get a chance, you should definitely check out this website, and I'll say it again when we get to the end. But the article is about traps done right, and what he was saying was here's a really good quote from this. It says, traps are probably the second most iconic feature of RPG dungeons, right after monsters. And yet, despite their reputation, they're often the most poorly used. And I cannot agree more.
Absolutely.
I have so many times have encountered traps in dungeons that are either nothing, like you don't even care.
Yep.
Or they kill everybody.
Right.
And it's like,
you don't get the right amount of warning. Either you get too little or too much. Yeah, absolutely.
Or it's just a die roll and then you're done with it.
Yeah.
I check for traps. Okay, find a trap. I disable it. Okay, it's disabled. And then that's it. That's the whole thing.
That's not the right plan.
No, and look, to be fair, throwing a monster into a dungeon is so much easier than figuring out how a trap got there, what the trap does, how to make it scary yet not devastating, and how to put the clues in. Look, it's complicated. I get it.
And also, how do you keep the players from slowing the game down by getting gun shy and just never moving or tapping every single thing in the room?
Every square. Check for traps.
I'm on alert. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I can't get caught.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, or punishing them for doing it when it's like you've made it so that they have to, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so he goes on. There's some more in the article. Now this article was really long, so I'm gonna have a couple quotes.
You're gonna read the whole thing in total.
Was that? And I'm gonna give a couple bits of information, but this is by no means even remotely everything that was in it. So here's another good quote. He says, in the matter of detecting traps, one of the simplest solutions is to make the party rely on logical clues players can observe rather than just rolling dice. Trap builders need to avoid their own traps, so subtle markers often exist if the players are sharp enough to spot them. For example, add small descriptions to areas where the traps are: broken tiles, gouges left by swords or holes left by bullets, and spots of paint that look like blood stains are just noticeable enough for the GM to describe, but also possible to dismiss as unimportant.
Nice. That's the balance, right? Because if you just go into a room and like I said, featureless room, except for one of the bricks being the wrong color, that's too much of a giveaway.
Right. Exactly. And then, he goes on. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here. He says, for mysterious traps, game mechanics work best as a way to reveal additional clues rather than to bypass the puzzle entirely. A successful investigation check might reveal that the vents in a statue are clean, suggesting that they've never been fired, or that faint scratch marks near the statue's base hint at a different danger. Yeah. So, just throwing in all these different
statue are, but yeah.
And then he didn't say anything about this in here, but, made me think about, some of the stuff that I've done with traps in dungeons. if something is trapped, then you have to think, why is it trapped? Or if it's not trapped, why wasn't it trapped? Or when does it make sense to have a trap? We just did an adventure. I ran it at the con, but we did it with our private group at one point, where there were some chests that had some really valuable things in them inside of this chamber, and it wasn't trapped at all. And they were like, of all the stuff you trapped, why wouldn't you trap this one? I was like, well, it's a guy's personal chamber. Like, this is his personal chest. Why would he trap his own chest?
Ah, yeah, that's true.
Like, what if he accidentally set it off and killed himself? So, sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. And then, you don't even think about, put a trap on it, and there's nothing in it. And the trap was just the chest in and of itself. It was, like tricking somebody, like, ooh, a treasure, I'll disable the trap. Maybe a trap behind a trap. They disable the trap, they open the chest, and the real trap springs. Just, stuff like that.
You've got to balance your realism with your gameplay a bit, though, because when you're thinking about, would you put a trap here? Why would you do it there? If you go too far down that, then you start questioning, how did they build this dungeon in the first place? Why is it here? And it's very easy to get into trouble, because at some point it does not make any sense to have a 12-level deep dungeon with passages everywhere. I mean, come on. At some point that was ridiculous. So, but there's nothing wrong with having the dungeon. You still want to run around in it. So you got to have a little suspension of disbelief. You got to say, yeah, whatever. It made sense for them to put a swinging blade in the middle of a corridor, even though they could have just done something simpler.
Oh, sure. Like, in Indiana Jones, the boulder trap was ridiculous. But it was awesome. But it was awesome.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, at a certain point, you got to realize, at least if you're playing an RPG that has the classic old school feel, the old school RPGs were written by people who grew up with pulp and silly adventure movies and books that didn't make any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll wrap this up with he said a major challenge in running trap heavy dungeons, ensuring the players actually realize traps are present. He says one way is to let them learn the hard way. Let the player stumble into a trap or two, but the trap should only deal moderate damage. This serves as an early warning without feeling unfair. And then the last thing I'm going to mention about it was, resist the temptation to fill a dungeon with many traps of many different kinds of traps, especially in classic designs. Less is really more. Using a single type of trap throughout a dungeon has powerful advantages. It creates a clear pattern that players can learn from and anticipate, turning the dungeon itself into a kind of logic puzzle. So again, I just can't stress enough that once I was really happy to find this guy's page. His name is Alexander Atos, dungeonencounters.com. The article is on Tribality. We'll have the link in the notes, but really good. He had a lot more good stuff there on his page. So please, you should check it out.
That's incredibly cool. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Next up.
What's up, Rodney Thompson?
Rodney Thompson. Yeah, I don't know Rodney Thompson, but
I don't.
He's worked on a lot of stuff.
Cool.
I'll take the lead on this one too, because it's one of mine. You found two and I found two, and I put my two in the middle because I wanted to talk about weird heroes first, because we love those guys, and I wanted to end on the Troll Lord thing. So those are your two stories. So I put mine in the middle.
That's great.
So veteran game designer Rodney Thompson, he's known for D&D, Star Wars Saga Edition, and Lords of Waterdeep, amongst other things.
Okay.
So a lot of people must, I'm sure a lot of people know of him.
He's from the more recent era, but still not still long time.
Yeah.
First time caller. Okay.
Well, so he founded this company called Scratchpad. I can't talk tonight, Jason.
Scratchpad Publishing.
Scratchpad Publishing. Good name. In 2018, this book, his book that's coming out, Neon City Outlaws, is a cyberpunk themed RPG where players rebel against dystopian powers, and it's the third game using his narrative focused resolution system.
Okay.
It will build on feedback from previous games that he put out on this system, like Dust City Outlaws and Spectaculars, and give more structured guidance for GMs on defining obstacles. This is a very story-based telling system.
Nice.
So one of the things that they do, they start scenarios start by asking the questions to players at their session 0, and they co-create sort of the world and the setting and everything together, and and the missions they're going to play. The players help define the corporations, the tech, weapon manufacturers, specific weapons become canon, and then using multiple choice prompts to shape the world details quickly.
Okay, so it's very much in that more story game genre where the players can actually have something to say about what's happening that in OSR games a GM would have all the control over.
Right. And this is one of the things I found interesting about this, and one of the reasons why I picked this story in particular, was that this is sort of the opposite of classic cyberpunk. So classic cyberpunk games have generally been the game master creates these really harsh, difficult to navigate scenarios where a lot of the times just surviving is like a big win. Like you got to live. That was your reward. And that can be kind of fun sometimes, but I have played in those campaigns like that, and it gets kind of old, fast, and bleak, when you're always just like on the mostly losing end all the friggin' time. So I did kind of like the concept of this, of where you and the game master and the other players are sort of creating this world that is going to be rough, but at least you have a say.
Well, it's a good point, because when it comes to cyberpunk, I've only ever played one-shots. I haven't played campaigns. And it's because I'm not sure how a campaign would really work for me. Because usually in a campaign, you're trying to achieve something. And what can you really achieve in a dystopian future? I mean, are you going to make it utopian? No, I mean, it's going to stay this bad thing. So what are you really trying to do?
Right.
Are you trying to escape the terrible circumstances that your players in and get them to being an oligarch who's sitting on top of the terrible things? I don't know. I don't know.
Or do you get to go live on the satellite, the city in orbit that's super nice?
Oh, right.
Nothing ever,
you
like, it's really nice
to Elysium.
Yeah, like Elysium, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. So I do like that. That's a good point.
And so this game does address that exact thing you were talking about, because they said it includes a revolution phase where players make citywide changes, topple corporations, free districts, and bring down elite figures. So this is a cyberpunk game where you could create that utopia, overturn the bad. You could be the catalyst to make the world a better place.
That is cool. Because, I mean, if we take the cyberpunk idea to some of its potential impacts, most of the cyberpunk games have that 80s aesthetic about them. Cyberpunk is an 80s thing written at a time where we didn't really know where we were going to be going, which dystopia we were going to be heading for. So,
who knew we were going to get all of them?
Yes. So, it was going to be the mirror shades, virtual reality, everything kind of dystopia. But even with that, I mean, you're probably going to have some kind of a world where AI has disrupted the economy. And if you take what we have today, if we took our current situation to its natural conclusion, right? And we said, we're going to keep on replacing every human with an AI or a robot, but we're not going to change the system that runs it. We're going to just keep it exactly as it is. What would happen is eventually the people who are at the top are going to have all the money, and everybody else is going to have absolutely nothing, because you're not changing anything. You're just saying, well, hey, I already own the factory. Just because there's nobody working in it doesn't mean I don't make money off of it. So you get to a point where you have to overthrow it. You have to create a new system if you're going to do anything. So you can't just keep this dystopian world in that same situation forever. It's just not how it would work. That's not how it would work.
Right. And not only that, but one of the things that always bothered me about cyberpunk was, they were like, well, corporations, they make all the money and they just, and everybody else lives in poverty. So I'm like, and my thought has always been, well, who the hell are they making this money from if nobody has any damn money?
Yeah.
Where are they getting this money?
So Ready Player One, pretty decent movie, abysmal book, one of the worst books ever published by a major publisher. But one of the biggest faults with it was that it was trying to set up this cyberpunk dystopia where it was like you said, but then it never explained, like, well, if everybody's living in abject poverty, who's buying these things? Where's the money coming from?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
Here, and the last note I have, and then I got 2 slides, I think one or two slides that shows some interior stuff. But the game does have sort of like a light-heartedness to it in some ways, because it offers a catharsis through satire of modern corporate culture. It really is sort of like an anti-corporation game, whereas I think some of the
cyberpunk game has to be, right?
Well, it does, but it really felt like they were pro-corporation because the corporations always won. In this one, it seems to me that the players get to win. And there's a sort of a kind of a fun kind of, seems like there's a jokiness to it. But so here's I think I only have one image. So these are just some images I put off their thing. Again, the game hasn't been launched or anything yet. It's going to go into launch. So they don't have a whole lot of stuff to show off, but I just thought some of this artwork was kind of cool. Like they're showing there's a cyber ninja, there's a cyber werewolf. So, and I think it's a matter of,
it looks cool. It looks like the kind of cool concept art that you see in a book after a movie's made and they show you what they were thinking about when they created it reminds me of that.
Yeah. Yes, it does. And my thinking is that this isn't stuff that is in it. It's probably going to be a lot of stuff because they were saying you can set up what's in it, stuff you could pick from. You could say, well, we don't want the werewolf stuff in there. That's too weird. But, or you could say, no, we want the werewolf stuff because it's really cool.
Cool.
So,
Ed Lopez in the chat is saying, I thought the book was good and the movie was only meh. And Brian liked them both. I would encourage anybody, listen to a podcast. It's by the guys who do Riff Tracks, which is the same as the
Mystery Science.
Thank you, Mystery Science Theater 3000. They have a podcast called 372 Pages We'll Never Get Back. And they do basically Mystery Science Theater 3000, but for books. And the one they started with was Ready Player One. Listen to the podcast. They make the case so much better than I ever could. It just really, when you stop and actually look at what's been written, you're like, ooh, because the ideas are kind of cool. It's kind of fun. Like, oh, we live in this world where Atari is the whole point. But then you actually, if you take a minute to look at what he really wrote, you're like, whoa, this makes Twilight look like literature. So, yeah.
Oh, Ed wants to know what the name of the podcast is again.
372 Pages We'll Never Get Back.
What's the name of the main? Is that the main podcast or just that episode?
No, that's the name of the whole show. It's really funny.
That is interesting.
These guys are hilarious. I love them. I've listened to them riff on books that I've never even read. They're just too funny. Love them.
All right. Okay, then. Well, let's move to our last story. I kind of saw this in passing, but you found it, and it is a really good story, and I think we're gonna have a lot to say about this one. So go right ahead.
Woo! Sorry. Got me with something going down my throat there. Okay, so this is very, very cool. The headline here is the Troll Lord Games has bought 5 acres. They've made the purchase. They've been saying they were going to, and it's happened. They have bought 5 acres of land, and they are building a factory. And this is so legit. Okay, so Troll Lord Games, for those who don't know, they're the creators of Castles and Crusades, which is, I think, maybe the most legit of the D&D spin-offs, because the name of the game goes back to the Castles and Crusades Society, which was a group of players in the 70s who were D&D players and SCA folks and Society for Creative Anachronism and all that kind of stuff. So the game goes all the way back. And in addition to having this huge cred of making the great game Castles and Crusades, from about 2000 onward, they were Gary Gygax's main publisher. So after leaving TSR and kind of doing some things on his own around wherever, they published all of Gary's stuff. And that included some incredible books. So there's the whole Gygaxian Fantasy World series, Castle Zagig, which is basically taking Castle Greyhawk and going further. Zagig is sort of a Gygax mixture up there.
Like Zagig was like, it's Gygax backwards, isn't it?
More or less. Yeah. Not exactly, but close enough.
Right. Okay.
All the various Castle Zagig adventures, all these great things. Those things did go out of print for a while. So after Gary passed away in 2008, there was some fighting over his estate from his second wife, who was claiming that she owned everything. And turns out not so much, because they were able to get the rights back, which is great news for the gaming community. So all of these things that I've been guarding all of my Troll Lords stuff from that era jealously, because I didn't want to, never get it again. Right. Yeah, you can get it again. Unfortunately, that means my books are not super valuable anymore, but I don't care. That's not why I have.
No, wait, well, I don't know, because there's printings, right? Like first and second and third print. If it's before this era, it might be worth something.
Yeah, but not as much as when they're completely out of print. You can't see them anywhere. If you want to read them, you've got to go pay $100 a book. But again, I'm never selling them, so I don't care. Right. So anyways, these guys are just great. Stephen Chenault runs it, and good guy, good company, and good businessman, because going way back, they have been doing their own printing for quite some time. Going back to kind of when they started, they've always done their printing in the United States. This has been a matter of principle for them. And I think a good one in their case.
Yeah.
Because as Stephen has put it, yes, they've spent a little bit more on the printing by doing things with American printers, but it eliminates a lot of problems. It eliminates timing issues, import issues. You're not certain who you're dealing with issues, all kinds of stuff. And there's a big benefit to having a relationship that goes 20 years with the same company, things like that. Right. So they've been doing this for a while. Sometime around 2005, and I should say, they've been doing this for so long that they started when there were more manufacturers in the United States. It was easier to find them. As time goes on, manufacturers have been dropping off. And so around 2005, they actually started their own print shop where they are in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I believe Stephen's brother had the idea to do it. He was outside of the game world. He was just telling his brother, hey, why don't you just start your own print shop? Right. And so he did. And I believe that their business, it has not just been making their own games. I think their business has included, just literally being a print shop, which is good. Right. You've got to have clients. But all this time, they have had their own smaller print shop. They've been working with U.S. printers. Even their dice were made in the United States most of the time. They went with Lou Zacci, who is, we've talked about him before, absolute legend in the gaming world, and eventually was the owner of Game Science Dice. So they did that. But Lou did shut down the company, and so they do go overseas for those at the moment. Right now, their main U.S. printers in Missouri. They use printers in all different areas, but they have good plans. Like, they keep their supply chain short, which I suppose he must be a war gamer. He knows you're supposed to keep your supply chain short. So for example, the company that has been doing their hardback books is only 4 hours away from their warehouse. So if something went wrong, they could just load up a truck and do it themselves if they had to. Mm-hmm. And this whole time, they've been doing a lot on their own, things that might be easier to do if you went overseas, like all of the packaging, putting all the things together, assembly, things that might even be a little bit better quality in some cases if you went to a place in China that's got things that are way newer, right?
Oh, yeah.
But they've stuck to their guns. This is how they do it. And so it has paid off for them over the years. They've had a good business. They've been able to put enough money aside that after all these years, and we're talking decades. I mean, these folks have been really dedicated to this. So this is not some overnight, some rich guy that just grabs a bunch of money. They've been working really hard to get to this point. And they are in Little Rock, Arkansas, where the real estate is not quite what it might cost in, say, Los Angeles. But in any case, back in April, they announced their plans to purchase 5 acres of land. And as of this week, the purchase has been completed. They now have 5 acres of land. And I think you were showing some pictures up there of it before.
Yeah, we
have a picture of Stephen out there. That's the land. That is the actual land. Little picture of him shaking hands with the real estate attorney that's managing the sale. And they are going to be building a 4,000 square foot factory and warehouse. They'll be getting larger printing equipment, bringing back hard case Game Master screen manufacturing. I'm assuming they'll probably get some of that kind of equipment that you usually have to go to China to get.
Yeah.
The advanced stuff. So,
yeah.
We
looked at some of that stuff. There's stuff you can buy, and it depends on what scale. Like you and I were looking at some stuff that's smaller and seeing if that was maybe something. We no answer on that yet. But the point of the matter is that it's a scalable business. You don't have to buy the biggest machine that can print 10,000 things a minute. You can. There are smaller machines, and you could start smaller, or maybe that's the model you want. Maybe you
they have. That's the thing, is they've had their small scale operation, and now they're moving to a bigger one, a very conservative, traditional path that it's a smart one to take. Small c conservative, as in the smart kind. And the don't make stupid mistakes kind. So it's really cool. I do want to read a couple of quotes from them here. So, Stephen has a message to the community, and he says, "It is possible to manufacture in the United States. It isn't as easy as it used to be, but it is possible. We work with several box makers that make our game boxes, printers that do our hardcovers. You'll need to find die cutters, and you'll need to do a lot of home assembly. I cannot count the number of times that Trollord Games employees have gathered at my house around my game table and assembled boxes and all of their contents, even shrink wrapping them." Ooh, we know that one.
We've been there.
Yeah, it isn't easy. And that's his words, and our words too. Mm-hmm. It's a move away from the one-stop shop that some have become used to, but it is doable. We did the board game Planet Busters in the United States some years back. All the components made in the US and compiled in our basement. It might not look as pretty as it does coming off the assembly line in distant lands, but it is doable. Dice and game pieces will be the real challenge.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and we're seeing talk in the chat here about will they print for other companies? Ed says that from what I hear on one of their streams, they plan on opening it to other companies eventually, which would be good. We would definitely talk to them and say, I would pay some percentages more to print in the United States and eliminate all of the, hassles.
Yeah. Dude, that shipping is just, I'm like, look, forget the tariffs. That's a whole different bird.
Yeah.
Just the deliveries, and then the supply chain choking and ships sitting, outside the port for months.
What if the ship goes down with your container in it? That happens.
Exactly. Or what if a company screws you over, right? What are you going to do? Are you going to fly to China with your lawyers and sue them?
Well, that one, I don't know how often that happens.
No, I'm saying, I'm not right, but it could. I'm just saying it could. Like there's just all this stuff.
Anybody can screw you over, and it's a lot easier to deal with somebody in the United States if you're in the United States.
Right. Like, for example, our printer, the guy we use for the most part, awesome guy. You go talk to him personally. You go pick our books up from him.
Yeah.
Right. He's not going to screw us. He's right down the road. You just drive down to his office and talk to him.
So I can find his house if I have to.
I'm just saying there is a real tangible bonus to that.
Yeah, there really is. There really is. I'm impressed with what they're doing. And what I love about this is it could mean good things for indie publishers in general. If they are able, 5 acres is plenty of space. In fact, a 4,000 square foot facility on 5 acres sounds like they're going to have room for expansion.
Yeah. Obviously. Yeah. Absolutely.
From the look of that land that we saw there, a lot's going to have to be cleared. I don't know what's going to have to happen. Like, I don't know what the land is like around Little Rock. Is it swampy? Is it rocky? What is it?
But Steven's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing.
No, but what I mean is, like, when it's time for I don't know if they're saying, like, we got 5 acres and we can use this much of it. And if we want to expand, we have to spend money grading it or excavating it, or I don't know what. But
go-kart track.
It looks cool.
Right?
It looks, what's that?
Go-kart track.
Yeah, well, you know that's my plan for my property.
Yeah, I know, right?
But you know, that does emphasize another thing, though. If you really want to make your business work in the United States, try moving somewhere or living somewhere, if you're already there, that things are a little bit more rationally priced too. You know?
Yeah.
Get out of San Francisco, get out of New York, get out of Chicago, get out of Austin, get out of Dallas, get out of all those places where everything is sky high. I mean, I saw a thing saying in Berkeley, where I used to live, they just put up some new affordable housing for everybody. And I looked at the cost of building this building. They said thousands of people were lined up to get units. They only had 87 units available. And it cost them $60 million to build this place for 87 units.
Oh, shit.
I worked it out. It was $600 per square foot. I mean, that's insane. You know, get out of those places. We don't live in a world where you have to be in a specific location unless you're, I don't know, building cars or something. No, not even then. There's
not even then.
Go wherever you want to. And so be in somewhere like Little Rock, be somewhere like, go to North Dakota, you know, do whatever you need to do. This is very cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Very
and I love the fact that, you know, he's doing this. He's going to open it up to other game publishers at some point. I'm pretty sure. When he can. And it's just going to be good for all of us, you know, not just us, everybody. It's going to be good for everyone.
Well, I hope it sets an example and maybe somebody else tries it.
Right.
You know, maybe Goodman Games will be the next ones to give it a shot, or whomever. I don't know who.
Right.
So very exciting. Would love to get Steven on sometime to talk to him about it, hear what their plans are, you know, find out more about it. But for now, cheers to Troll Lord. Well done. This is a good year for them. They got got some of their licenses back. They got the new place that they're building. Just sounds very cool for Troll Lords.
Right. Yeah, I did. You know, so one of the things I did see, I was reading something somewhere, one of the notes or on their page or something. They were talking about looking into like injection molding, and
yeah,
I'm kind of like, don't hold your breath. That is, it's deceptively complex because, like, you know, where I work, I have people. Engineers there that I work with who know about injection molding. They literally professionals who design 3D model things for injection molding. And so there was a point where I was considering doing something that we were going to do and like having like, I'll get injection molded parts. I mean, like, these guys can help me through this. I got experts who will help me for free. I can just sit down and talk with them because you normally have to pay a ton of money for that. And the more I talked to them, the more I was like, yeah, we're not doing this. That's too, it's too complex.
That is going to be one of the things we're going to see a big shift over the next 5 years in, maybe longer, but I think it's going to happen pretty quickly because it is so ripe for disruption. There are so many things that could potentially happen.
3D printing is going to take it over because right now 3D printers are not quite, they're almost fast enough and efficient enough to compete with injection molding. And I think in 5 years, they will blow injection molding away and we won't see any more injection molding. That's my opinion.
We'll see. I mean, I thought that was going to happen as screen printing was going to give up the ghost and direct to garment was going to take over. And it's still just sometimes when you're dealing with scale, it's just easier to do things the traditional way. I don't know. I think we'll probably see more advancements in the molds is what I think is going to happen.
I don't know because, again, like I was saying, you know, talking to the guys that 3D injection molding, there's not a whole lot more you can do with it. It is what it is. It's actually really good. I'm not trying to talk it down. It's actually awesome. It's just that 3D printing, I've been watching it. You know, I 3D print stuff, and over the last couple of years, I've had multiple printers.
It just has
and
to go so fast in order to
I have watched
scale.
Yeah, but dude, I've watched it happen, and the 3D printers just keep getting faster and faster and faster.
Maybe
it's ridiculous.
Maybe so.
Anyway, we'll see. We'll see.
I hope it does. I want to make a lot of toys. I want to make a lot of little plastic things and help fill the oceans with microplastics.
Oh, God.
That is 5,000, folks.
Hey, I know. On the upside, they've got like I forget which organism they've got now that can eat plastic.
Yeah,
I think it's a bacteria.
Come out with some materials that are more biodegradable. You know, who knows?
Well, they do. I think Japan came out with a biodegradable plastic.
Everything gets worse and everything gets better. I mean, there's people that are 3D printing brand new coral reefs to replace the ones that are disappearing in some places. So
that was really cool.
You never know. And we're seeing lots of cool stuff in the chat here. Talking about the Bamboo Labs printer, which I haven't seen. We'll look for that.
They're good. Mike Kafis has one. It's awesome.
Yep. Resin printing, definitely. You do resin printing now.
That's what I do. Yeah.
Yeah. And as David Benavides points out, nanobots, which, I feel like nanobots are they're in the same category as flying cars and virtual reality.
And fusion reactors.
Why don't we have it already? We should. But, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We'll see. Yeah.
All right. That's all our stories. We're done.
Yeah. I guess we will see you all in the Discord.
Subscribe, like, review, do the things that do things, and follow our Patreon, because then you can join us in the Discord and hang out and give us crap. And
our Patreon is turning out to be really fruitful and productive. I mean, I'm not talking about what we're making. That's not my point.
We hit like $3 million a month already.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That'd be awesome. No, I'm saying not my ability, our ability. I've just been primarily where I was about to lead.
You're the Patreon dude.
Mostly.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But it's been very fruitful. A lot of stuff I've been putting out, a lot of stuff. And, Brian just put out something for us. He was more than happy. He's like, I want to put something on there. I was like, all right.
Good stuff too. And Canada, you talking the Canada stuff?
Yeah. The Canada book was really good. I mean, I'm really happy. I was very, we talked about this before. I was very nervous about doing it because I don't like, I don't like collecting money from people if I don't know that I can honor, what
we're giving them good stuff. We're putting it out. We're making good stuff. We got a lot more coming up. So
holy crap, we have been. It's been fantastic. I'm so happy. I'm so proud. I'm proud of what we've been doing. Is what I'm saying.
We've been doing good. So hey, let's take a 5-minute break and pop over to Discord. We'll see everybody there in 5 minutes.
All right. Ciao.